Hello, and welcome to Intersector, a series of conversations connecting artists with policymakers and activists. The CAC is developing these conversations in anticipation of the presentation of Jo Kreiter's site-based aerial performance, The Weight Room, in spring 2021. I'm Laurie Pritchard, Director and Curator of Performing Arts at the Contemporary Arts Center, and thanks so much for being with us. We're joined today by Jo Kreiter, who's the Artistic Director of Flyaway Productions and the choreographer of The Weight Room, and Ivy Mathis, the chapter organizer for VOTE, Voice of the Experienced, in Baton Rouge, and a member of the theater ensemble The Graduates. While we eagerly look toward next spring's performances of exceptional contemporary work, we also must pursue the important work of building community right now. Jo came to New Orleans in late October last year and again in early February to meet with a range of local activists and teach a special session of a class at Xavier titled Community Development in Art. But now, in shutdown and quarantine, our work has to continue as the CAC seeks to be convener and catalyst by engaging with the artistic, policy, and social justice efforts of our community. We are honored to have Ivy and Jo in conversation, and we look forward to your reflections on this unprecedented moment, its effects on our most marginalized community, and the role that art can play in decarceral justice. Welcome, Jo and Ivy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. It's so nice to be back in New Orleans, quote unquote. And Ivy, it's always an incredible honor for me to be in dialogue with people who are doing the hardcore activist work. So I'll start by thanking you for all that you've done to support the end of caging. And I think I've been asked to introduce myself. And shall we start with that?
Yeah, yes.
Cool. So like you, I'm a dancer. I'm a choreographer, and I'm a site artist, which means that I make dances for unusual places. I most often make dances for the sides of buildings, but the project that we're talking about today is a little bit of an exception to that, in that we designed a piece that could be mobile, because the issue of mass incarceration happens everywhere. And so we wanted to be able to activate audiences to learn about, get interested in, and act on the problem of mass incarceration all around the country. And The Weight Room is the first in a trilogy of pieces. I call the trilogy the Decarceration trilogy, dismantling the prison industrial complex one dance at a time. I'm an artist that works in community collaboration. I build coalitions as an inherent part of my work. I build coalitions with arts and non-arts partners because, well, first of all, because I have a degree in political science, and I sat on the fence for a long time about whether I wanted to do activist work or be an artist. And somehow in the last 30 years, I've found a pathway that allows me to do a little bit of both. So I like working in coalition because I think coalitions are really effective political tools for large-scale social change. And I like the idea that artists are a part of that large-scale action. I like to say that my work lives at the intersection of social justice and acrobatic spectacle, because I'm an aerialist. I choreographed aerial dancers. We make dances that are off the ground and that center flight as a primary vocabulary. And that's certainly true of The Weight Room, which hopefully you'll get to see in April. I guess the last thing I want to say is that this piece was developed in partnership with SE Justice Group. And SE Justice Group is an organization based in Oakland and now also Los Angeles that has a healing to advocacy model for women with incarcerated loved ones. And actually today is a huge day for SE Justice Group because we are launching a new campaign, a national campaign called Lives on the Line. I don't know if you've heard of it yet, but it's being launched today and makes 6 crucial demands to address the COVID-19 crisis in prisons and to end mass incarceration. And those two ideas are not separate for SE. So that's with whom I've been sitting as I made this piece and as I continue to connect to the issue. And I guess the last thing I'll say before I let you talk is that I am a woman with an incarcerated loved one. That is my lived experience. And I think it's really important that people whose families have been incarcerated, the formerly incarcerated, and people who are currently behind the bars are centered, our voices are centered in the fight. And that's a great way to introduce you, I think.
Oh, thank you, Jo. And it is such a pleasure to share in this conversation with you as well. Well, I have a little bit of a different background. First of all, my name is Ivy Mathis. At the age of 17, I was given a life sentence in which I served 26 years. I was released December the 11th, 2018. Going into prison as a child, I really hadn't identified with my talents. However, I joined the drama club in prison and many other programs where I discovered that I had many talents. I could act, I could dramatize skits, I could dance, I could even choreograph music. And these things were essential to me because I'm learning and I'm developing and I'm growing into my talent. As I said, I was released December the 11th, 2018. And many people wouldn't understand this, but walking out of prison, I was so happy, but yet I was sad at the same time because I was leaving behind women that I had developed genuine relationships with. They became my friends. They became sisters I never had. And being the baby in prison, a lot of what you would call old timers took me up under their wing, Mama Glow and Mary Turner to be specific. And they viewed me as their child. And being away from my mother, you know, I didn't understand until years later that I really appreciated that and how much they meant to me. Also, when I was released, I had 3 previous jobs before I came in with Vote. I didn't want anyone to know that I had been released from prison, and that was my major concern because, you know, the odds are against incarcerated individuals when they're coming out of prison. And my concern was, if I get a job, can I keep it? And I can't tell anyone that I'm an incarcerated person. How would that look? Am I going to get fired? The opportunity with Vote came about, and this was the perfect opportunity for me because I made a promise December the 11th, 2018, that I would not just keep in touch with them, but I would advocate for them. And coming on with Vote gives me this opportunity, and now I can also tell people that I'm a formerly incarcerated person and not worry about losing my job.
Mm. Well, it's really exciting to me. I had the opportunity to go to the Vote office the first time I was in New Orleans 6 months ago, I think. And Kathy Randalls took me there, and we had a great conversation. And I'm really impressed with the longevity of the organization and the depth of what you all are doing. And I'd love to know, just based on the work that Essie's doing right now with using COVID-19 as a vehicle to show the connection between people who are incarcerated and people who are not. I mean, if there's ever something that connects us, it's the virus, because people who have been going in and out of prison, mainly the corrections officers, have brought it to the prisons. And it's a really painful thing when you're looking at the numbers of people in jails and prisons who are infected, and you're looking at the one statistic that I saw recently from the Prison Policy Initiative was that the county jails are moving people out and the states are not. So I'd love to hear what you're up to with Vote and what Vote is up to in the immediate and the longer term as well.
When this pandemic crisis became known to the nation, Vote advocated and reached out to the governors, the mayors, the DAs, the sheriffs, DOC, and told them what it would look like if they didn't act immediately. And after making several calls to all of these offices and getting insufficient responses, Vote felt morally compelled to act. If you don't know, the women prison now have the most cases in the state of Louisiana of COVID, and we've already lost one. Her name is Dorothy Pierre. Mama Glow is in ICU, and a few others. Angela Stokes was taken out today. So it is spreading like a wildfire in prison, and because they cannot honor or abide by this state order that has been given to us in society, they are forced to live in these closed-in, confined areas. And Vote understands that because most of the staff are formerly incarcerated people who have been confined in these areas. After receiving several emails, JPay emails from the prisons, and all of them were basically identical from the men and the women saying what they weren't doing and what they was doing, and none of this collaborated together as a good thing as far as the outcome. They weren't being tested, they didn't have masks, chemicals were short, soap was short, security coming in sick. Vote advocated. And I take personal issue with the women because, like I said, these are women that I left behind. We went Facebook Live, 3 formerly incarcerated females. Both have 4 chapters, one in Shreveport, one in Lafayette, New Orleans, and of course, Baton Rouge. And we got together and did a Facebook Live, and after getting much feedback, we went on to do a vigil, a prayer vigil, in front of the JCCY headquarters for women. We were across the street, and Channel 9 News got wind of it, and they came out and did a few interviews, and they filmed covered the prayer vigil. What was rewarding to me about this is because the women on the inside, not even 30 minutes later, I received an email that said, word spread fast in prison. Are there, do you know anything about protesters being out in front of the prisons? Because, security makes calls from dorm to dorm. They got Channel News out there, and they got people in blue shirts out there. And so I got an email. I said, we're not protesters. It was a prayer vigil. However, for them to know that people on the outside are working on their behalf, meant a lot to me, and that they knew that I was out there, because I made a promise, and I was able to honor that. I'm able to honor that, so that means a lot to me.
This might be a hard question to answer, but do you feel like there was a specific result of the vigil? Like, was there a measurable, or are there going to be more that people can join in?
Yes, I think there was an accomplishment with the prayer vigil because our officials are called upon now to answer this, and it's public now. It got news media coverage, and it is all on Facebook, and now they know. And even in the investigation on the news, which was yesterday here in Baton Rouge, they disclosed the numbers. Mm-hmm. And every day at 11, the DOC website is supposedly be updated, but the numbers were not accurate. So after investigating, the numbers were out there. So yes, mission accomplished.
I have experience of the numbers not being accurate as well. We have my family has a family friend who was just released, who was over 70, had a heart condition, was supposed to get out in October and petitioned for a few months early release, and it did happen. And one thing that he said to us is that someone on his behalf he was in the federal system and went on the Bureau of Prisons website, and they list the names of the dead. And there's a lot of people that he knows who died who aren't on the list. So it's difficult to trust the institutional storytellers. And I think that's where people like you come in, because your story is really rooted in your truth. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Because I have such connection with the ladies, and I do share those emails with the vote staff, and they then question DOC. And of course they have their little, conversations about this is being done, that is not being done. And we know the truth. We know the truth because we've lived it. But I believe that it's coming to a point to where they are about to take action because they've lost control, and not to really jump off the subject, but our state was really not prepared for this, because you would think after Hurricane Katrina and with the prisons being relocated that they would have had an emergency plan in place, and they do not. And so they put these women in all the confined areas, and this is the outcome.
Mm. And will there be more vigils? Do you know?
Yes. Vote now is strategizing. We are planning to go to Hunt. We are planning to go to New Orleans. We've been doing some work around the East Baton Rouge Parish jails. So there will be, but it takes organizing and strategizing. So it is soon to happen. Let me just say that.
That's great. And I know that CAC is going to put some links on the website with this interview for how people can connect. So I look forward to knowing more about what's happening next. That's the artist in me, like, what's next? So I was on a meeting last night, a Zoom meeting with my SE sisters, and the comment was made, the question was asked, what gets people to listen? And the answer, one of the answers was data gets people to listen. And I think that's really important, that we're collecting the best data we can. And for the Lives on the Line campaign, we're going to be relying on people with incarcerated loved ones telling their stories on a survey on the Lives on the Line website, so that we can collect person-to-person data. But when I hear that data gets people to listen, I think a lot about the weight room, and it's a very different way to get people to listen, because we're using choreography, we're using music that's originally composed, we're using storytelling. The weight room tells the story of 6 women who have loved ones who are behind bars, our brothers, our partners, our fathers, our sons. All the women that we interviewed had loved ones who were male. That wasn't a plan, that was just kind of how it all landed. And I think that there's an amazing power to the way that art tells these stories, in addition to data, facts, figures, and the Channel 9 News. So I'm just wondering how you relate dance to truth-telling.
For me, dance is an expression. For instance, when I was in the drama club, I was a member of the drama club, and even with the graduates, dance allows you to remove yourself from reality, but yet stay in touch with reality. It's a form of expression that you really can't say, you let your body tell it. And it just automatically draws people in. So whatever your story is, whatever you're experiencing, whatever you want to convey, you do that with your body, and it's received.
I know that when we made the piece, The Weight Room, most of the dancers are impacted by prison systems, either very directly via a parent who's been in prison, or someone's brother is currently in and out of the system. So I know that as we made up the dance, that personal telling was a really key element in why I think the piece is so successful. And I love what you say about, like, you lose touch with reality, but you're still in reality. And that is a great gift of being in motion, is like you enter another world, but you are inevitably still you, and still connected to your heart and your soul and your, the tensions and the bones of your body. So I think it does make for a really powerful narrative. And I think one of the things about the weight room that I'm really looking forward to bringing to New Orleans is that there's a way that the project is slightly circus-like. It's apparatus, it's off the ground, there's flight, there's really big motion, but we also call it the anti-circus because it's content-driven. It's really about a call for action. So it's not flighty in its content. It's pretty substantive and can be difficult to see. And I just want to talk about two different audience responses we've had to the piece. We've shown it all over the country, and when there have been people in the audience who are women and who are white and who are perhaps middle or upper class, they have said more than once, I had no idea that that's what women went through when someone in their family is in the system. And then simultaneously, we've had audience members who are young and Black and male, and they have said to us, to the artists in the cast, wow, I had no idea what my mother has been through in supporting my brother, for example. So I feel like the piece speaks to a really wide audience, in both those who have lived this experience like you, like me, though you and I have lived very different sides of it, and those who kind of know nothing about it. So I guess I want to ask you, knowing all that, how do you think audiences of the CAC and folks who are listening to this interview can support VOTE? What does VOTE need from people?
Advocacy, coming on board with VOTE. People can advocate by first learning what VOTE is, and maybe coming to some meetings, signing on to come on to some meetings so they can get some in-depth information about what VOTE is and how it's run. Also calling the governor's office. Calling the governor's office. I believe that this will bring a lot of frustration and make him move, you know, because where we were able to get in touch with someone at the governor's office after so many calls were made, they just stopped answering the phone. But you can also leave messages. Mm-hmm. You know, this is what we want to see happen. We're concerned about our loved ones on the inside. What is the plan? What are y'all doing to release people due to this crisis? What are y'all doing to protect the incarcerated when they cannot protect themselves? And eventually, like I said, I just believe that something is about to happen because there is a lot of movement around incarcerated individuals now and this pandemic.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Also, I think, you know, as I started to say in the beginning of this interview, it's about all of us. I mean, mm-hmm. You know, that very basic idea, no one is free till we are all free. But right. Also, no one is safe till we are all safe. And when you've got these, you know, epicenters of massive viral contagion and people are traveling back and forth to them and away from them, we are all exposed. So I think that there is self-interest, and there is also the call to people's humanity. And statistically, in this country, 1 in 4 women, and more specifically, 1 in 2 Black women have a loved one who is incarcerated. So it's a lot of us. You know, it's a big, big American problem. And I guess my hope is that this virus is a catalyst for much greater change than would have happened without the virus. If we can get that outcome out of a really tragic situation, then that will be a testament to the effectiveness and power of people like you.
Thank you, Jo. And it is my hope. This is not for everyone. You know, first of all, you have to be moved in your heart. You have to feel and connect first in your heart. You know, we can listen to the media, the social media, but until you are moved by your heart, then you are ignited with this fire to fight. You know, because this is a never-ending fight, even before the COVID virus, and now even more so with the COVID virus. We have always been advocating for the voiceless.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's my hope that people first listen to their heart and then be moved to come on board.
I don't know what to say. My goodness, that your testimonials, your stories it's just so powerful to listen. And we're so honored to that you would speak to each other and speak about these things that are mattering so much all the time, but especially right now. So thank you, Ivy. So nice to meet you. I can't wait to meet you in person one day and see you perform.
Yes.
Jo.
I look forward to it. I look forward to it. And I want to thank everyone for having me, for sharing in this great conversation that is not talked about enough, and that it took this pandemic to come along to shed some light upon the women and men inside of prison.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to thank the CAC for having me as well. And I just can't wait to share with the ladies what took place today. And I know that they will appreciate this as well.
Yeah, I want to thank the CAC for having the guts to make the deep connections and the hard conversations. Thank you.
Well, there will be more. We're not going to stop. So everyone tune in, see what's next.
Okay.
We have to keep talking and telling our stories, and we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yes.